Jango Fett was one of the most skilled and deadly bounty hunters to walk the face of the galaxy, known for his incredible toughness and ability to kill. But before he was chosen as the template for the clone army of the Republic, Jango Fett became a Mandalorian after his family were brutally murdered in front of him. So we're going to dive deep into his backstory and how he became the ruler of Mandalore after the tragic death of his father figure, Jaster Mereel. So if you haven't seen part 1, which is how Jango became a Mandalorian, make sure you pause this video and check out that one in the pinned comment down below. So, the story begins on the creepy moon known as Kohlma, also called the Moon of the Dead, where Count Dooku is traveling to his lair deep beneath the surface. Once inside, Dooku travels to his torture chamber, where he asks his droid if the prisoner is ready for interrogation. The droid responds to Dooku, telling him that the prisoner has finally succumbed to the substance known as Bavo Six. Bavo Six is a tremendously powerful, yet very easy to produce, truth serum used by many criminal syndicates, corrupt governments, all the way through to the Empire much later on. Once inside the torture room, Dooku's prisoner, named Silas, groans to him that he is finally broken and that he gives up. Although the Mandalorians are able to anticipate the worst of the worst and are even trained to endure torture, Silas is finally at his breaking point and is ready to tell Dooku everything he knows about Jango Fett, his former mentor and good friend. Dooku is of course pleased by this and tells his prisoner that the pain can end in moments if he tells him what he wants. And unfortunately, thanks to the truth serum and the horrendous torture, Silas easily cracks and begins to tell the story of who he believes is the greatest Mandalorian who ever lived, Jango Fett. Silas's story begins 20 years before his torture, where he almost died serving under Jango Fett. As the young Mandalorian rookie is rummaging through his belongings, he sees Jango and is shocked that Jaster Mereel is finally giving him command of his first squad. Jango, being the man he is, tells his friend that the mission briefing is about to begin, so he needs to fall in line and keep his mouth shut. As the meeting begins, Jaster Mereel introduces Jango and informs his men that this is Jango's first mission as squad commander. Because of this, the mission is being kept simple and straightforward. The organization who gave them the mission, the defense force of the planet Quarter 6, has hired them to rescue one of their rookie security teams that have been pinned down by the hostile natives on the planet. Jaster tells his men that the recon from the Quarter Defense Force suggests that the natives won't be providing any resistance, as they are very poorly armed and have no army. Finally, Jaster uploads the coordinates of the mission to every single one of the squad's Mandalorian helmets before passing off to Montrose, his other commanding officer. And if you've played the Star Wars Bounty Hunter game, you'll definitely remember who this is. The Mandalorians then split into 3 companies, with those who have flight experience with their jetpacks being assigned to the Vertigo company, and the others being split between Montrose's company and Jango Fett's Headhunter company. As the time of the mission comes, Jango firmly shouts out to his men to board the transports quickly, and as he is doing this, his father figure, Jaster Mereel, gives him a reassuring nod and tells him, "Make me proud, Jango." Jango smiles and moves on with the mission, but he is soon interrupted by Montrose, who says, "I think sometimes he forgets that you're not really his son. That's dangerous, clouds his judgment, and yours." Montrose is of course only saying this because one day soon, Jaster will be forced to choose his successor, and Montrose wants to be that choice for the next leader. He considers Jango to be the fake son of Jaster and doesn't believe that he deserves to rule. Jango of course brushes this off, saying that Jaster will do what's right for the Mandalorians, but Montrose continues to taunt him, saying, "Let's hope we can say the same about you." Following this, as Jango's men are about to arrive on Quarter 6 for their mission, he gives them his final words of encouragement, telling them to keep an eye on their ammunition and each other. Under Jango's leadership, everybody comes home. Unfortunately, moments later, the Mandalorian fleet is attacked by ion cannon fire, disabling all electrical systems for most of the fleet, sending them plummeting towards the rocky surface below. Jango then congratulates his pilot on a great landing, given the situation, before bursting out of his transport and rushing forward with his men. Unfortunately, Jango's men are horribly ambushed by a barrage of fire, killing many brave warriors before they even have the chance to make it out of the transport. Jango is upset and confused at this because the intel given to them by the cordon security forces said that the resistance from the natives would be minimal. Because of this, Jango frantically contacts Jaster's comm device, warning him that his men are being cut down left and right. After losing countless more of his men, Jango has no other choice but to retreat down into the trenches for more cover. As Jaster arrives in the trenches with his company, he orders the entire Vertigo company in the sky to regroup at Jango's coordinates in the trench and to abort their attack. Montrose, being the hard-headed man that he is, says, leave it to Jango to find someplace to hide, before directly disobeying Jaster's order and continuing with the aerial attack anyway. Jaster is not happy with this and realizes that the group made a massive mistake by relying on second-hand information for their mission, before once again demanding that Montrose abort the mission immediately. Montrose once again refuses Jaster's order and charges right into the heat of battle against the gorilla-like natives of the planet. Montrose's company rush into the raging battle against the Cordon natives, but a blast grenade is soon hurled at them, knocking him to the ground with tremendous force, leaving him moments away from being pummeled to death by the natives. Fortunately for him, before the Cordon gorillas can reach him, a flurry of blaster bolts stops them in their tracks, and when he turns around, he sees that Jaster Mereel has saved his life, despite him directly disobeying his orders. Following this, Montrose is still ungrateful, claiming he could have taken the position if Jaster didn't interfere. But Jaster once again tells Montrose that they are pulling out and that he should shut up and get moving. After this, Montrose then wonders where Jango could possibly be after his failed attack, and Jaster tells him that he used the absolutely idiotic aerial attack as a diversion and is going after their target to extract them. Jango and his men then trek through the muddy forest, but when they arrive at the extraction site, nobody is there. Instead, moments later, they are ambushed by the horrid Death Watch led by Tor Vizsla. Silas then asks Jango who the Death Watch are, and Jango explains that they were way before his time and were the group that split with Jaster many years ago. Jango then adds, "We thought they were finished. Guess we were wrong." Jango realizes that the Death Watch probably trained the natives and planted false data to lure them into a deadly trap. Not long after this, Tor Vizsla, the leader of the Death Watch, rolls up in his massive Mandalorian tank. As Jaster spots this, he goes off on Montrose, telling him that this is his fault and that they should be far away from this mudhole by now. As he does this, Tor Vizsla immediately fires his wrist rockets at Montrose and Jaster before flying into a rage and painfully exclaiming that Jaster stole the Mandalorians from him and left him for dead on Concord Dawn. Immediately following this, something tragic happens. Jaster is knocked to the muddy ground and calls out to his friend to airlift him out with his jetpack back to safety. Montrose then reaches his hand out to do this, but at the last moment hesitates and tells his former friend, "Sorry Jaster, I'm through taking your orders, but I'll take good care of the troops." Being absolutely betrayed, Jaster screams out in pain and betrayal to Montrose, but is very soon after cut down by a flurry of fire from Tor Vizsla, who is holding back tears and channeling all of his anger to finally wipe Jaster Mereel from Mandalorian history forever. As this happens, Jango Fett witnesses his father figure become filled with scorching hot energy and tries to rush in to help him in absolute pain. Silas, however, holds him back and pulls him down to further avoid fire from Tor Vizsla, saving his life. Immediately after this, Jango rushes over to Jaster's body before inspecting it for just a moment and slowly pulling off the helmet of the man who he considered a father to him. Jango apologizes to Jaster for not having his back, but in his final moments, Jaster has no hard feelings towards Jango. While Jango is holding Jaster in his final moments, the pathetic Montrose attempts to get his men to leave the planet immediately, telling them that Jango is dead and saying that Jaster's last order to abort the mission still stands. Yeah, it's pretty low to use the last orders of a man that you just got killed to justify saving your own life and to try to take the rulership of Mandalore. He only does this because he wants to rule the true Mandalorians. Out of nowhere, however, Jango arrives back at the base camp holding Jaster's body and demanding to get it away from the combat zone. As this happens, Montrose pulls one final cowardly move, demanding that Jango do right by Jaster and place him in command of the Mandalorians. Jango of course scoffs at this and tells him that he is not fit to lead because he left Jaster to die on the battlefield alone. Silas then backs Jango up and all of the other Mandalorians all point their weapons on Montrose, exiling him from the true Mandalorians and placing Jango Fett as their leader, making him the ruler of Mandalore following in Jaster's legacy. And to end the story, Silas is snapped out of his flashback and Dooku tragically uses a serum to stop his heart. In his final breath, Silas begs Dooku not to tell Jango that he told his story, but Dooku coldly says that he can't make any promises. So that is how Jango Fett became the ruler of Mandalore after watching his father figure die after being betrayed by one of his most trusted men. Thanks so much for watching. Remember to subscribe to be notified when I release part 3 of Jango Fett Open Seasons. Really hope you enjoyed the video. Cheers guys, hope to see you in the next one.